What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams. Happy Sunday, and today we're here to continue our 31 Days of Disney and take a look at Home on the Range, featuring the voice talents of Roseanne Barr, Dame Judi Dench, Jennifer Tilly, Cuba Gooding Jr., Randy Quaid, Charles Dennis, Charles Hayde, Steve Buscemi, and Patrick Warburton. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. As I said in the introduction, it's Sunday. Happy Sunday. We're going to continue our journey through the 31 days of Disney today, and we're going to take a look at Home on the Range. And our movie opens in the Old West, and Maggie is the only cow left on the Dixon Ranch after a wanted cattle rustler named Alameda Slim stole all the rest of Mr. Dixon's cattle. Now, Dixon has no other choice but to sell Maggie to Pearl, a kind, aging woman who runs a small farm called Patch of Heaven. Sam, the local sheriff, soon arrives and he tells Pearl that her bank is cracking down on debtors. So unless she can pay the bank $750 in 3 days, her farm will be sold to the highest bidder. Upon hearing this, Maggie convinces the farm cows, Grace and Miss Calloway, to go to town in an attempt to win prize money at a fair. Now, while the cows are in town, a bounty hunter named Rico, whom Buck, the sheriff's horse, idolizes, drops off a criminal and collects the reward. Stating that he needs a replacement horse in order to go after Alameda Slim while his own horse rests, he takes Buck. However, when Maggie finds out that the reward for capturing Slim is exactly $750, she convinces the other cows to try and capture him in order to save Patch of Heaven. That night, they hide among a large herd of steers when Alameda Slim arrives with his henchmen, the Willies. Before Maggie can attack him, Slim begins a yodeling song, which sends all of the cattle, except for Grace, who is tone deaf, into a trance that causes them to dance madly and follow him anywhere. Now, Grace is able to bring Mrs. Calloway and Maggie back to their senses just before Slim can close the path behind him with a rock slide in order to stop Rico and his men from chasing him. As Rico discusses what his next move will be with his men, Buck starts to argue with the three cows. This causes Rico to believe that Buck is unreliable, and he decides to return him. Buck escapes, determined to capture Slim for himself in order to prove his worth. Maggie, Grace, and Mrs. Calloway continue their search for Slim, determined to pass Buck and get to Slim first. But they have a fallout when they lose the trail during a flash flood. Mrs. Calloway argues that Maggie is only going after Slim for a personal vendetta and states that Patch of Heaven would have been better off without her, to which Maggie cynically suggests that they part ways. The three spend the night under a large rock, and the next day they are attacked by a peg-legged jackrabbit named Lucky Jack, who also has lost his home, which was an old mine, to Alameda Slim. Maggie decides to go after Slim with Lucky Jack as a guide, but Grace convinces Mrs. Calloway that they should help. At the mine, Slim reveals that he has been stealing all of the cattle from his former patrons, and when his former patrons can no longer support the land, Slim buys it when it is auctioned off under the guise of the respectable-looking Yancey Odell by using the very money that he gets from selling the stolen cattle. After arriving at Slim's lair, the cows managed to trap Slim. They managed to run off the Willies, the cattle buyer, and Rico during the pursuit, but when the chase stops, Rico is revealed to be one of Slim's henchmen. Crushed by this, Buck decides now to help the cows and fights Rico while setting the other cattle free. Slim dons his Odell costume and goes to attend the auction of Patch of Heaven. However, the cows follow by driving the cattle train locomotive to the farm. After a fight against the cows and the farm's animals, Slim is defeated, exposed, and arrested, and the reward money is used to pay the farm's mortgage. A few weeks pass by, and at the county fair, most of the livestock on Patch of Heaven have won prizes. Lucky Jack moves to the farm and lives with Jeb the goat, and two steer, as well as Slim's gentlemanly steed, Junior the buffalo, arrive unexpectedly to join the festivities as our movie comes to its close. Now, unlike most of the Disney movies this month, where I sit here and I say, I don't know why I didn't see this one before, I can tell you exactly why I didn't see this one before. I'm not a fan of Roseanne Barr, period, point blank. Never was, never have been, never will be. However, I will state that I did enjoy this movie, and she was the lead cow, Maggie. Maybe because I didn't have to see her and I only had to heard her, I enjoyed it a little bit better. Maybe it was the supporting cast, Jennifer Tilly, Dame Judi Dench, Cuba Gooding Jr., Randy Quaid, Steve Buscemi, etc. But I did enjoy this movie a lot more than I anticipated myself liking it. It's definitely one of those hidden gem movies from Disney in the early 2000s when they were going through yet another dark age. You figure in Disney filmography, the Dark Ages is pretty much everything after The Jungle Book, because that was the last one that Walt kind of was working on. So everything that came after that is considered the Dark Ages until we get to The Little Mermaid and the start of the Renaissance. And although this era is technically considered the post-Renaissance era, a lot of these movies just didn't do that well. They couldn't live up to the standard and the precedent started by Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, etc. So this is kind of from another dark age in Disney filmmaking. And on the one hand, I can see why some of these movies weren't as successful as others. And on the other hand, you're like, but why? Why not? You know, Lilo and Stitch was a prime example of, but why not? Because even though Lilo and Stitch is thought of in a successful terms now, because Stitch has got a huge following, time of release, not so much. Home on the Range is one where you can look at it and be like, I can kind of see why this failed. If this had been made 10 years prior, yeah, this might have done better. If it had been made 10 years later, it might have done better. Because you got to figure that country music wasn't as popular when this came out as it was in the early to mid 90s, or even the resurgence of popularity in the early 2010s. So this was just kind of like a dead period. So for there to be this country, farm, cowboy movie in the middle of an era that wasn't really calling for it, you can understand why it didn't do as good. Again, if this had come out in the early to mid 90s when Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, George Strait, Reba McEntire, Trisha Yearwood, Vince Gill, Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, I could continue going. We're at the top of the charts. Okay. If this had come out in the early 2010s when we were seeing the emergence of Taylor Swift, Luke Bryan, and artists like that, Okay, maybe. But just smack dab in the middle of 2000s? Nah. I did thoroughly enjoy it though. Is it going to be one of my go-to watch all the time Disney movies? Probably not. And it's with that in mind that despite I speak highly of this, I'm giving this 3 out of 5 stars. As smack dab middle of the row as you can, only do 5 stars. So 3 is right in the middle there. However, that being said, if you've never seen it before, I do highly recommend that you seek it out, give it a chance, give it a watch. Come back, let me know what you think. Those of you that have seen Home on the Range before, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment or am I off base here? Let me know in the comments. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Let's have that conversation, that discussion, that debate, that interaction that I'm always asking you guys in the comments below. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right here to the Casa D18 Studios channel for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And it's Monday, another one of those manic Mondays. And we're going to kick off this coming week with Mulan 2, featuring the voice talents of Ming-Na Wen, B.D. Wong, Lucy Liu, Sandra Oh, Lauren Tom, Getty Watanabe, Harvey Fierstein, Jerry Tondo, Mark Mosley, Pat Morita, George Takei, June Foray, Michelle Kwan, Frank Welker, and Rob Paulson. You don't want to miss out on any of that content right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. Mulan 2 tomorrow, and we still got so much more in store as we continue our journey through the 31 days of Disney right here on Renegades Reviews. Again, you don't want to miss any of it, so make sure you smash that like button, make sure you subscribe, make sure that notification bell is turned on so you don't miss out anytime a video drops right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel or anytime we go live, as is the case with Statboy Sports Bar, Open Mic Night, pay-per-view PLE watch-along coverage, etc. Share these videos with your family, friends, loved ones, coworkers, movie fanatics, cinephiles in your life, fans of cowboy movies, fans of Disney cartoons, fans of Home on the Range, fans of Roseanne Barr, Dame Judi Dench, Jennifer Tilly, Cuba Gooding Jr., Steve Buscemi, Randy Quaid, anybody you can think of that would enjoy this content in this video. Share it with them, as it's the only way we're going to keep my visibility up in YouTube's algorithms now that we are in fact a monetized channel right here on the platform. Thank you once again to everybody out there who joined me and tuned in today. It means so much more to me than you guys will ever know. And I will see you guys next time.
And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.